One day, Stephanie went to her mom and said, "None of the kids in my class have a ponytail. I want a nice ponytail coming right out the back." I started telling stories in a daycare center in Coos Bay, Oregon, to get kids to shut up for nap time. And that was all I was doing. When I came to Canada, I wrote them down. This was 10 years after I started telling them, and sent them off to a publisher. I've written 54 books. I write 2 books a year. They're funny books. Kids like them because they're funny. I'm one of the few writers in Canada who lives off their writing. My name's Bob Munch, and I'm bipolar, which means that I have a 2-week cycle of feeling altogether too good and driving too fast and talking too fast, and then I would go down into a big slump, maybe a month or 2 of depression. When I was in my high states, this is strange, I would always think they were going to last forever. I would think, I'm never going to go into a low state again. I have arrived, and everything is okay now. And as time went by, they got more and more high, and I would talk all the time. I would drive too fast. I would get lots of work done, only maybe it wasn't the best work, but I did a lot. When I was feeling low, everything was going bad. My wife was terrible. My kids were terrible. My life was terrible. I constantly thought about suicide, ways and means. I remember standing in a Toronto subway station wondering if I was going to jump in front of the train. Like with each train coming, I'd sway, and it was pretty bad. Those kinds of feelings started when I was really young, about grade 7. I didn't have any friends in high school. I couldn't relate to people. My parents didn't know what to do with me. The stigma attached to mental health kept me from going for help for 20 years. And it took me a long time to admit that it was the pills and the regular life that I wanted to be me. Sit right here. And during university, it was suggested that I should see a shrink, and I reacted very violently to that. I do not have a mental illness. I'm quite regular. I do not need a shrink. But my life was a mess. I don't know what I was thinking. I had this profound aversion to shrinks because they were for people that needed help with a mental illness. And I wasn't crazy. But as time went by and it became more and more clear that something was the matter with me, my wife pulled the plug on me by saying, "You get help, or I'm leaving. I'm not going to stay here and watch you kill yourself." That was what it had come to. And I went to see this shrink, and 2 minutes, I'd been talking 2 minutes. He says, Stop, you have bipolar." It was like I was textbook case, you know. To have him so blithely diagnose me, I didn't like it. I didn't like having a label. I had become an alcoholic because a shot of alcohol could clear up depression fast. Unfortunately, I became addicted to the alcohol, and that became its own problem. So I had to go to AA and at least stop drinking for the therapy to have any effect. Besides, the drugs didn't work very well if you were drinking. But I remember the initial reaction. For a long time, this reaction of, I need these pills to be a normal human being, it was very disheartening and disquieting to think that I needed these pills. I didn't want other people to think that I was kind of a failed human being. I've now changed my mind about that. I just tell people, yes, I'm an alcoholic. Yes, I'm bipolar, and tough luck. I used to worry that if I take a pill, might I lose the ability to write? And because I'd read about some cases where that's true. But in my case, not having to worry about bipolar, I write better. My inspiration usually comes from specific children. Like there's a story I'm working on now. I was on a flight to Calgary, and a little girl got on and opens up the knapsack and takes out 10 dolls. And she puts 2 on the seat beside her, 2 in the seat. She festoons the plane with dolls. And I started thinking about that and the trouble she would have getting through security with all these dolls. And I wrote a story right then. It used to bother me. People would say, you're so successful. And I'd say, yeah, well, I'm not suicidal. Like, it didn't make sense. And now my life makes more sense. I think the stigma attached to having a mental illness is, people say, you have a mental illness, you're crazy, you might shoot me, attack my children, burn my house, you're nuts. And that's not the way it is. It's considerably less theatrical than people expect. People have to realize that mental illness is something wrong with whatever the way our brains work. And there are various things now that you can treat it with. If you think you have obsessive compulsive disorder or schizophrenia or bipolar or anything else, or just not feeling right, it doesn't hurt to go see a psychiatrist or a psychiatric social worker or somebody like that. They won't, their files are shut. They're not going to go down the street saying, oh, George, yes, how's that compulsivity doing? And it's really a no-brainer. It takes a lot of courage to do that. I could have been a suicide. I could have been an alcoholic in the gutter. There's various scenarios you could... I don't think I would have been alive without the pills. I would have killed myself. So that's a pretty poor ending. I'm lucky. I'm lucky I got help. I'm lucky it worked. When I think about the years I remained sick, they were the years that I had my young children. So they knew a parent who was dealing with mood swings and had trouble relating to them as people. And I feel very bad about that. I remember driving down the 401 with my son once, and he says, you don't pay attention to me. I talk and you don't pay attention. And I was in some suicide fantasy, or, you know. I feel bad about that. Having bipolar and being an alcoholic has taught me that this condition can happen to anybody. That smart people have it, dumb people have it, rich people have it, poor people have it, and it doesn't matter who you are, what kind of, it doesn't matter how good you are. You can have the problem, and being open and having a support group is vital to beating it. I'm a writer until I get Alzheimer's disease. But then if I'm lucky, I'll have already I have lots of stories that aren't published. So the theory is I will die and stories will continue to come out.